Hello my dear students, welcome to your Geography's online class. Today in this class we will be discussing the last topics of the chapter Demographic Attributes. The topics to be discussed today are the working population, occupation and implication of demographic attributes for development. We will be discussing about the working population in a sense that what number of people in India are engaged in one or the other activities, mostly the economic activities. As because when we talk about working population, we mean the people who are engaged in work. They earn their livelihood with those works. So we will be discussing in details the amount or in fact the percentage of population involved in such activities or work. So working population, this is number of people engaged in economic activities. To them is what we call working population. So they are the number of people engaged in economic activities through which they earn their livelihood. Now not all the population of India are under some of the economic activities. So then to those people who are actually engaged in economic activities are considered to be working population. That means they are taking part in one or the other economic activities. So hence when we see this under the working population, the participation rate of the population So you can define participation rate as the ratio of working population to the total population of India. That means, like I said, not every people are engaged in economic activities, but those who are involved out of the total populations, they have either participated in one or the other economic activities. So that number is regarded as the participation rate. This participation rate can be understood differently on the basis of male working population as well as female working population. Now, under this participation rate, we can find the main workers and the marginal workers. So, main workers or who are they? As per 1981 census that was carried out in India, the main workers are the one who worked for more than 183 days. But as per 2001 census, it is defined as population working more than 6 months are considered to be the main workers. While marginal workers are those who work less than 183 days as per 1981 census. Well, as per 2001 census, they work for either 6 months or less than that. So they are the main workers and the marginal workers. So when we look onto this working population working as the main workers and the marginal workers in the country, it has been found that the workers are mostly aged between 15 to 59. As we found that these age group, that is 15 to 59 age group, is considered to be the most productive age and hence they are the main workers. But there are in India at certain circumstances where even children's or population below 15 years of age or more than 60 years of age also work. That means under certain conditions that we find that even the dependents are the workers to meet up their family demands. As of the average participation rate in India, if we see as per 2011 census, here the participation rate as per 2011 census, it is only 39.8%. As per 2011 census, the participation rate in India is only 39.8% of the total population. So that means we see how less population is involved in the activities. Well, out of this, the male participation rate is higher than that of the female participation rate. We see that the male participation rate is 51.7%, while the female participation rate is almost half than that of the male participation rate with only 25.6%. This is female and this is male. So this number or this figure shows us that even in the economic sector, we find the dominance of the male over the females. So this is, as we already have learned in terms of population characteristics, that male population in India is more than that of the female population. While in this, again, if we see the rural population and urban population, we find that the rural populations are mostly involved in the primary activities like agriculture, which almost provides 81% of the workforce in India, while urban sector populations, working populations are very less in India. Well, if we see the female populations of workforce in urban areas is even less than 20%. So this shows a huge difference between the male populations and the female population in India involved in the work activities. And this differs in different states, as this is the average number of the whole country, where we see the participation rate is only 39.8%, wherein the male population is male populations involved is 51.7%, while that of female population is 25.60%. And in this economic activities involvement of the population, we find agricultural activity provides the maximum participation rate with almost 81%, with both male and female being involved in it. Now, what does it shows in terms of development when we see the participation rate where itself is very low with only 39.8%, and most of the population involved in agricultural activity? It shows that India is not a developed nation. It's still, either you call it a developing nations or it's still underdeveloped nations. This is all because of the workforce involved in the economic activities. Occupation as another attributes of demographic attributes, or you can say population characteristics. As per 1971 census, the occupation in India has been divided into many folds, or it has been given into many sectors, wherein we find cultivators, agricultural laborers, livestock farming, mining and quarrying, manufacturing industries, construction, trade and commerce, transport and communications, and also there are other services that are involved. As per 1971 census of India, the occupation had been divided into these many folds. There were slight changes in it, of which we see 1971 census and then came 1981 census. In 1971, we found agriculture, so this is as per 1971 census that we find that the occupation were shown in 9 different sectors. But 1981 census of India showed a different forms of occupation, or you can say types of occupation or categories of occupation. So what were those? So these were the 4 sectors under which the Indian occupation system was been divided as per 1981 census. However, there was an implication in understanding the occupation system in India as per 1981 census. So the thinkers or the planners again decided to move back to the system of 1971 census of categorizing Indian workers as per their occupation. Now, as per this categorization, based on 1971 census of India, and like we already discussed as of the working population, that major groups of working population were involved in agricultural sector. So this is why we call India as an agrarian economy as per their working as per their occupation. Now we will be discussing about implications of these attributes for whatever we have learned. The age composition, sex composition, population structure, and then you have working population and then occupation. So all these affects the economic system of India. At the same time also has some way or the other affected the development of the country either in a positive manner or in the negative manner. First, if we have to talk about positive manner, then we see that literacy rate of India has increased, which has invited population to get involved in various economic activities. So as long as the population or the maximum population are involved in economic activities, there is a progress, an economical progress of the country. Literacy rate has also brought about a lot changes in the Indian social system by eradicating various social evils that were practiced in India. But equally, there are also negative impacts of these attributes in India, as because we see that it's the male-dominated society, and this male-dominated society has always shown more of the male force or male working power than that of the female working force. The hindrance that is placed in the developmental activity, what we still observe is that most of the population in India are still living in the rural areas than as compared to the urban areas. Though there is a change in the population from rural to urban areas and there is a growth of urbanization, yet there is this hindrance that still the people are involved with the primary activities rather than the other activities. In India, we see a huge gap between a male and female working population as well as in their number, that is the total population. So what this causes is a huge gap between the sex ratios, which creates a developmental hindrance to the country. So this is all about the chapter. You go through the book to understand in details about the chapter. Thank you class, and you all stay safe.